Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Cinquetta with another installment of Sis, It's Just Not God's Best for You, Self Actualize and Shine podcast show. And today we have a special guest. Her name is Mari Ramos, and she is the author of Who Is She? A Story of Trauma, Survival, and Healing. And we talk about ways to identify red flags when you're in a relationship, how to identify like red flags in a toxic relationship. So you guys do not want to miss this. A little bit about Mari. So she's from Boston, Massachusetts, and she's the mother of 4 and a domestic violence survivor. After 15 years of abuse, she finally decided to use her voice and write her book, Who Is She? A story about trauma, survival, and healing. She is now an author, certified life coach, entrepreneur, and domestic violence advocate. She helps women overcome trauma and start the process of healing, and this is why I decided to have her as a guest on my show. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, sit back and relax and enjoy. You're in for a treat. You're going to learn about signs, you're going to learn what to do next, how to overcome, and having a game plan and getting your self-esteem back. Oh, and also why your relationship with God and Christ is the most important relationship you'll ever have. Hope you enjoy. Talk to you soon. Bye. Well, thank you again, Mari, for joining me on this episode of Sis, It's Just Not God's Best for You, Self-Actualize and Shine podcast show. So I'm going to get right into it. So, as the author of Who Is She? A Story of Trauma, Survival, and Healing, who was Mari as a little girl? Like, I know, like, just reading the intro of your book, you talk about how you were 15. So I just was curious to know, what were you like growing up? Like, what were you into? Like, what were your dreams, your goals, your aspirations? Just tell us a little bit about yourself at that point in your life.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. I'm pleased. I grew up in an abusive home,
Mm.
in a toxic environment. My father was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict, and he was abusive to my mom for
Mm.
years. So, as being the oldest, I witnessed the most. So, I was born in Puerto Rico, but, my mother kept moving around from New Jersey to Holyoke, back to Puerto Rico, then to Boston. So, we was just kind of all over the place at the beginning. Growing up, we didn't have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
My father was the only one working, and then eventually my mother got a job when she put up for divorce. She got tired of him, tired of her, his abuse. So it was just me and my siblings. I wanted to be a secretary, but I used to read books a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So at that time, my father used to always take me to the library, and I was just always typing. I had back in the days we really didn't have laptops, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had the big computers, or the writer typewriters. I was constantly writing, so I want to do something with writing, whether it was a
Mm-hmm.
secretary or writing something. But that's something I really enjoy. At the age of 15, I there was a party line, back in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So me being in high school and curious and wondering what's out there, I got in there and I met the father of my oldest 3 children. And at that time, he told me he was 19. But then, we found out he was 22. He was married with a child.
Wow.
And we kind of just built a relationship from there. So growing up, I didn't have a lot. We weren't really poor, but just growing up in the abusive home and not that family oriented and kind of like that peaceful home. We never really had that.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I'm so glad that you shared that. And I feel like it's, how like everything kind of works all in like hindsight. So I find that it's interesting that even as a kid, as a young girl, you wanted to like do something right. And here
Right.
you are, like as an author. So it's almost like God was preparing you even back then in your purpose. So
Yes.
that is amazing. So, okay, speaking of, like you said, you had met your children's father around that time. So I was just gonna ask, growing up, what were you taught about men? Like as far as dating, did your mom, your dad, aunties, whoever give you like advice on how to date men or what to look out for? Like what was taught to you at that age?
I think growing up, I wasn't taught a lot. Me and my mom really didn't have that conversation on, relationships, intercourse, STDs, or, family oriented things. I grew up in church,
Mm-hmm.
right? As Christians, sometimes, we try not to do certain things, going to church, you got to stick to one person. And, that's one thing that they taught me, right?
Mm-hmm.
You belong to one person, you deal with that person till death do us apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing that growing up, my grandparents, the old school. You marry one person, and that's the person you're gonna marry for the rest of your life. But as men, in terms of abuse or what a certain thing I should expect of a man. I had to learn the hard way.
Okay. So when you say you had to learn the hard way, what was the hard way? How did you like? I know you mean experience. So what did experience teach you about men?
I think when to let go,
Mm,
what to allow, what not to allow, was healthy, was not, what's not healthy, or what love is really about.
mm-hmm. I love that.
And me growing up in an abusive home and actually experiencing abuse at the age of 15 personally, you think it's normal. You think, this is how you get treated. My mother got treated like that. And, I kind of learned that maybe this is what it is for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what God has for me. So I had to learn at 27, maybe on my late, almost 30, middle 30, exactly what a relationship should be about, what's healthy and what's not healthy. So I had to learn on my own, figure it out and find many ways to understand this is what really is about.
Okay. And when you say you learn through experience in life when to let go, can you tell us what are some ways or some signs to know, like, okay, it's time to let go this relationship from your experience?
I spent 11 years with that abuser. I have 3 children by him. I spent 11 years, dealing with abuse, dealing with controlling narcissism, toxic. He wouldn't let me even learn how to drive or have friendship. If I had a guy friend, I was sleeping with him. If I had a female friend, I was sleeping with the female friend. So everything for him was normal. And I basically grew up with him. I was
Mm-hmm.
15 and, he was 22. So he taught me the whole negative version of what being a woman is.
Wow.
So
Mm-hmm.
that positive, I had to learn on my own growing up as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So, I ended up leaving him. I met someone else and he was worse.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
He was worse because I was looking for validation. I was looking for someone else to love me. It was like that father figure, right? That paternal love that I was looking for because I left my father when I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just me and my mom and my siblings. So, I was really, loving myself, valuing myself, respecting myself. I spent 6 years with this person, and this man was I was so scared of him. Even just the way he looked at me, I used to, I was shaking every time he would look at me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I finally left them. And, I married somebody who was younger than me, who I knew from the beginning that he was not the right one. But
Mm-hmm.
I decided to ignore those red flags,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because maybe the what if, oh, he's gonna change. I still was vulnerable. And I spent 4 years with him. I'm currently going through a divorce and I needed a why to
Mm-hmm.
love myself. I needed a why to get mental help. And it was my children, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were struggling with depression, suicidal thoughts. They kept blaming me, you're not okay, you need help, you're so toxic, you're taking everything on. And so I definitely had to put a stop to and kind of just break the cycle.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm so proud of your strength,
Thank
like,
you.
and the fact that you were able to do it for your children. So you talked about being in a relationship for 11 years and then 6 and then like 4. Like, so why do you think women decide to stay in these kind of relationships even when they see the signs, even though they may see the red flags, even though they know they're being controlled? Like, what do you think keeps women like staying?
Sometimes we tend to love the red flags out of people, right?
Mm.
Are they going to change?
Mm-hmm.
What if? Or you know what? Even sometimes I know women. Well, what if with the next person he treats her better than me?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
It,
you do
it's
think
that
that.
selfishness.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of abusive relationships sometimes can be financial, right? You're afraid, fear, or you really have nowhere to go, or it's the children, or sometimes you just don't know how to leave, whether you're gonna get judged, or you don't have that support system,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes they think it's normal. Oh, he's just yelling, or he just cursing me out. It's just something that they think is normal. In today's society, I seen that, social media kind of glorifies toxic relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, he's so toxic. Oh, he show up at my job and he did all, and for them it makes them happy.
Mm-hmm.
But little do they know that's toxic, that's narcissistic relationship. So a lot of them think like I like my man to control me.
Mm-hmm.
I like him telling me what to do. I
Mm-hmm.
like telling him everywhere I go, everything I do, what to wear. And little do they know that's a toxic, abusive relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to just stay because they like it. And others, when they're in a really abusive cycle, They just don't know how. They scared, they're afraid, and there's many obstacles in the way, as I mentioned. But financially, you have no support system or fear. Fear can really be scary because you tend to lose your life sometimes if you do want to leave.
Wow. You really broke that down. And like you said, I do feel like with this generation, like you said, social media, toxic is almost like normal for people. You know what I mean? Like
Yes,
you said, people want to be controlled. If my boyfriend ain't jealous, then he don't like me like
yes.
that. Like I don't know how that came to be about, but it has definitely changed. So looking back on it, what would you say are the red flags that women should look out for? Um when they're in a relationship, like, or like, what are some things that's just like, okay, that's not normal, all right, I don't really like how he did that, like, what are some things that they can kind of like look out for if they are in a situation?
Sometimes just the tone of voice, it's how you say things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Check how he is with his friends, his family, with himself. A lot of men don't respect themselves, right? The
Mm-hmm.
private relationship. We got social media. Research the heck out of this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when you go out, how is he speaking to the waitress, to the waiter, or how is it controlling you? Just the smallest thing. Oh, I don't like that skirt. I don't like that pair of jeans, or do your hair like this, or just the smallest thing is control, right? Because an abuser, they start controlling you. They
Mm-hmm.
start telling you what to do. They start calling you multiple times a day or checking up on you, not normal, 3, 4, 5 times. Who's your friends? And I don't like you speaking to that friend because I don't like her. Just the control part is definitely a red flag. Or how they speak to people. If you speak to people rudely, if you seem to have like this aggressive personality, that's definitely a red flag.
Mm-hmm. I like that you explained it like that, and also the fact that the person may not even be like loving themselves.
Hmm.
It's sometimes I think women feel like it's them. Like, okay, let me just fix this about me, let me change this about me, and then it'll make them happy. But really, like, you can't make a happy person, like, you can't make someone that's like not good within themselves happy, no matter what you do. Like, they have to be happy within themselves as
Right.
is. So that's something I never considered. So I'm glad you actually brought that out. So now that we identified the signs, we know what to look for. How did you find the strength to leave, your situation and actually get? I know you talked about your kids, but was there a moment that like literally clicked in your mind, like, okay, enough is enough, I'm leaving?
I was just tired of crying. I was trying to, I was tired of being scared. I was tired of not sleeping, being at peace with myself. Just having like a peaceful home,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I see myself so depressed and being in alcohol, because I went through an alcoholic moment in my life, and dealing with so many emotions and so many ways where I couldn't function. I just couldn't function. I couldn't be the mother that I should have been for my children. Having that lack of self love. I just say, you know what? Like you definitely. I had to find my light at the end of the tunnel. I always tell women, if you can't find the light, you gotta just light it up yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Find it. And I just find that light it up myself. And once I got my mental health, I started writing, I started journaling and finding ways to heal, because sometimes, yes, it's important to seek therapy, but we also got to seek other ways too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because therapy is a short-term goal,
Mm-hmm.
but healing is a journey. It's a
Mm-hmm.
long journey. So you have to find ways. And I just got tired and I wanted to see my kids happy, myself happy. And at that time, I was like, you know what? Cut the BS already. Do you really want to lose your children? Do you want to keep losing yourself? So, it's just like that light bulb. I found that star in the sky and God, going to church, praying a lot. So definitely.
I love it. I think sometimes we're like stronger than we really realize. And then sometimes it takes situations like this to pull it out of us, even though like
Right.
they're not, easy situations to go through. But the fact that you were able to still find light at the end of the tunnel. And now, like I said, everything's coming full circle. You're gaining your power back. You're talking to me. You're going to help other women with your story.
Yeah.
It's like it's all kind of worth it. Going into my next question,
Okay.
what can women who are in an abusive relationship do to take back their power? I know you mentioned healing and how that's a journey, writing and things like that. And I also like what you said about therapy being a short term thing. Because people do make it seem like, all right, I'm gonna get therapy and then I'm fixed. That's it. Not
Yeah.
realizing that, like you said, it's an ongoing healing is an ongoing journey. So, is there anything else specific that women can do to kind of take back their power?
I think you really had to want it,
Mm-hmm.
right? You really had to want the change. You really had to break through that fear. You know, it's like you really had to know deep inside what you want to do. Okay, you're taking therapy, but what are your goals after therapy, right? How can you heal? You're not doing a lot of journaling. I sit back, read a lot of self-help books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every morning what I do, I make my bed, go for a walk, and make sure I get my thoughts together before I start my day. Have some candles, put that shade up, get your curtains out, take that sun and that air. Do something that you like. A lot of women, when you do live in an abusive relationship, it's so hard to start over.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard because you're so afraid to get hurt. You're so afraid of being judged. And once you start the healing process, it's every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's an everyday. Because as for me, I still had to learn ways to cope, right? Make sure you know your triggers. What triggers you? Is it a place? Is it a movie? Is it a person? And set boundaries for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You had to set boundaries. Is it a family member? Surround yourself with with a good positive support system, because that support system is so important. When you need somebody to talk to, that person's going to be there for you without being judged, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes family is not the best support system, right?
Yes, that's true.
It's
Mm-hmm.
not, it might not be. So find that support system that's going to help you through your journey and learn, research. I read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I read the Bible, but I also read a lot of self-help books that's going to motivate me to grow.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I love reading, like you said, my
Yeah,
Bible, and like you said, self help. Because I feel like we're all right. I feel like everything you listed was about self love. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's a way to take back your power. Because now I'm putting this effort and energy
right.
back into me. Because like you said, we're looking for that validation. So now
Yes.
I feel like when the next person come along, you know what I mean? Like you better love me how I love me. You know what I mean?
Right,
And if
right,
not, then I know there's a problem. But sometimes, like, we don't put in that work to love ourselves. So we can't really identify, like, love or how love should be when someone tries to,
right.
like, give us a counterfeit version. So I loved everything that you said, the candle, setting up your,
Yeah.
like, doing that for you.
Yes,
Like,
have a personal space in your home that's just for you, right? I
mm-hmm,
have a corner in my house, I got my pillows, my candles, aromatherapy, diffusers, oils, and I got my little section of books. No one can go there but me.
mm-hmm,
That's my breakthrough. If I want to cry, I go to that corner. If I just want to, relax, I go to that corner. So, self-love, you just got to accept your story, because when you keep feeling ashamed, it's like you can't be the victim anymore.
mm-hmm,
Accept the story, move forward, create new memories, and start accepting yourself for who you are.
mm-hmm.
Your failures, we're not perfect. So love your imperfections.
I love that because sometimes you do feel that way, like my flaws, like you, and then you start
Yeah,
picking at yourself and like you're unworthy. But I like
right.
what you said, just accepting who you are, all of it, you know.
Affirmations. I'm this, I'm
Mm,
powerful. I'm every morning, I have a list of affirmations on my mirror,
mhm,
and that's the first thing I do. I
mm.
am worthy. I am, tell yourself, because the more you tell yourself, you're gonna believe it.
Yes, there we go. And I know, like, as a Christian, it's that song by Donald Lawrence. I don't know if you know it, but it'd be like sometimes you have to encourage yourself. And
Yes.
like how David encouraged himself in the Lord. Like, that's a real thing. You really got to do
Manifestation. You gotta manifest. Yes.
that. So I'm so glad you touched on that. Well, my next question, I feel like you kind of touched on too, but we'll go ahead and roll with it. So, how can women learn to love, respect, and put their selves first as you did? And
Boundaries.
boundaries. Okay,
Ban-
talk
you
more
know,
about boundaries.
boundaries. Someone asked me, how do you set boundaries? The first thing
Mhm.
I did, write a list of certain things that people do to you that you don't like.
Okay.
You bring it up, you speak to that person, this is how you make me feel. This is what I need you to do. Whether
Hmm.
they're gonna follow your boundaries, and if not, to be honest, sometimes you gotta cut people off, right? You just gotta block people, because if people don't respect your boundaries, you can't come to my house a certain time, or you can't come at a certain time, or they're calling you certain names that you don't appreciate. You gotta let them go, because if they really love you, they're gonna respect your boundaries. accept yourself for who you are, love how God made you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to fix certain things about you, fix it for you, not for nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
Don't allow certain people to speak to you a certain way. Don't allow certain things in your life, because sometimes we don't value ourselves. So, we get lonely and we start looking for validations at the wrong places, right?
Ooh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn that, because, certain time in my life I was, feeling lonely, and I was trying to call an ex, and I say, hold on, do you want to go back to a heartbreak, or do you prefer to, deal with the loneliness, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, I started doing things like, let me keep busy, keep your mind busy. Because when your
Mm-hmm.
mind is busy, you stop the negativity, right? The negative thoughts.
Yes.
And if you gotta go, working out, like I do, like I walk every morning. That makes me feel good. I like makeup. Today I don't got lashes on. I'm like, I'm looking at myself like, hold on, something's missing. But I like doing my hair, I like doing my nails, like little things that make you feel good about yourself. That confidence is gonna
Mm-hmm.
start rising up. That confidence is gonna grow. So definitely just do what pleases you. Because once you do what pleases you, you're respecting your own boundaries, your own self.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. And I love how you touched on mascara therapy. I think that's what they call it. They say like sometimes women when they go through a heartbreak or breakup, they like get into depression, they want to be by themselves. But I heard this one lady say, no, put on your put on your face, like dress up, go get your hair done. You know what I mean? Because when you feel like you look good, it kind of helps with your mood. So I
Yes,
like
it definitely do. When my hair is done and I do my makeup, it's not because you're hiding anything. It just for some reason it makes you look, you enhancing your natural beauty,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm, yeah.
Get dressed up, go out with your friends, or go for a drink, go to the movies. I like going out to eat sometime by myself and talk to myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
like, just do things that make you happy. Forget about everybody else. Focus on you.
I love that, and I'm glad you touched on going to dinners and things like that by yourself. Because I was in like a women's group, and that was one of our challenges. We had to like go on a date with God. So bring your journal, eat, and treat yourself to a place nice. Like stop waiting for the man to come along and do that for you.
Date yourself. You got to date yourself first.
Yes, yes. So I'm so glad you touched on that. That's amazing. So, what are things women should know about themselves that may prevent them from being in an abusive relationship? Because sometimes, like how the scriptures say, "My people perish for a lack of knowledge." So, do you think it's a like women don't know their worth, women don't know lost their self esteem? Like, what do you think is the kind of missing, or that would kind of attract a person to an abusive relationship?
Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes, this person might seem like a Prince Charming at the beginning. And then
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the relationship, you invested time, invested your feelings that you just want to keep fighting for,
Mm-hmm.
right? You just don't want to let go. As for me, growing up in an an abusive household, sometimes you think, well, this is how a man, a man is, right? Or in the Latino culture, a lot in Central American, the macho, I'm the man, and you do what I said, and I'm the head of the household, and you do as I please. And sometimes growing up in that type of household, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women just tend to respect. Well, he's the man of the house. It's his way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
It just sometimes, when you love and respect yourself, you don't lower your expectations,
Ooh, yes.
right?
Uh-huh. That's
And as for
good.
me in my healing journey, now I know what to expect from a man. Recently, after so long, I decided to give my number to someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
He started getting a little bit of possessive,
Mm-hmm.
calling all these times a day. I said, block. I
Mm.
seen on red flags already,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't gotta tell you this is not working out. I'm gonna block you.
I love it.
You know what?
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of you explaining something to somebody when you already don't see them red flag? Because you're already investing time, and now you're gonna, invest conversations. Just what's the
Cut it off.
point?
Yeah.
And
I like
sometimes, like I said, we tend to love the red stuff out of people. Oh, they're gonna change. Oh, that's just how they are. Oh, it's just their trauma.
it. Mm-hmm.
Or they've been through so much in the past, or they've been through certain things. And just because someone went through something, you don't gotta accept the negative things that come out of their mouth or their
Definitely.
behavior or where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be everybody's therapist, right?
Yes.
Because you went through trauma and things. I don't gotta deal with your BS.
Right.
You
I
can't
agree.
fix it. They gotta fix themselves. And sometimes, we meet people, I just want to help him out and I want to, grow with him and do all these things. And no, sometimes you're not gonna find the perfect person,
Hmm.
but a broken one you can't fix.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. Exactly.
I try because I try to fix that. In my marriage, I knew not to marry that person, and I said, "Oh, I can fix it." I no, and it just got worse, and I put myself in a situation, that I had so many mental breakdowns, and then I used to call me, "You so dumb, you so stupid," how you knew, and then I was like, you know what, you made a mistake, you learn from it, you move forward.
I love that. Because sometimes we do feel like it's the end of the world when we mess up. Like we
Hmm.
don't give ourselves grace, to like mess up or make a mistake. And I feel like sometimes we hold ourselves accountable for stuff that God done already forgiven us for. So if God can forgive me, like I need to learn how to forgive me too. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you touched on it, and I'm glad you touched on like not being a therapist for men, because I that's how I feel. To me, that is a red flag. Like I'm not trying to help you through your trauma. Like I didn't do it. You know what I mean? So and then
Right,
guess
there
what?
you go.
I feel like
That-
we as women go through trauma too and stuff like that,
right.
but we try not to put that on the next person. You know what I mean? We don't try to make the next person. Some women do, but like for the most part, we're the ones that's doing this stuff, going to therapy, seeking help, life coaches, things like that. So we don't, bring that to the next relationship.
And
So I
we tend to make excuses, or he's yelling, cursing out. Stop making excuses for men, because now
mm,
you're making excuses for yourself. Oh, when he
mm,
was a child, his father or his mother did this to him. This is why he's aggressive, or this is why he tends to, blow up, for the smallest. No, stop making
mm,
excuses, because at the
yeah,
end of the day, you're gonna hurt yourself, your mental health, your children, and you don't want your children to grow up in that environment, right?
right.
Because if you don't get help, they gotta get help. If they don't get help, the ball's gonna keep growing, right? They're gonna
Hmm.
pass it on and pass it on. So it's generational trauma. It's just gonna keep growing.
Right. If that's the case, I feel like they need to be single. They don't need to be rewarded, with a relationship if they have all that going on. Like, be single, work on
Right.
yourself, get healed, and then you're healthy enough to be in a relationship. But men sometimes don't like to get help.
Absolutely.
But oh yeah, I'm just like,
That's
oh my
true.
God. Mm-hmm.
And that's the weakness. Like I said, that's what I'm saying. When a man respects himself, he worries about his mental health. He
Mm-hmm.
worries about, just even, just mental health is so important. And, that's one thing that, when you speak to a man and he's full of excuses, right? Everything's
Mm-hmm.
an excuse, and everything, take that accountability of knowing like there's something wrong with this dude, making excuses for everything. Okay.
Right. Yes, because really, I feel like a part of being a man is fixing the problem, like rising to the occasion. Like, okay, I'm gonna
Right.
make this right, kind of thing. But excuses, no. I feel like, you're a man. You know that's not cool. You're supposed to be the fixer in the situation.
Well, a lot of men who are narcissistic, they don't like taking
Mm-hmm.
accountability for their actions. They're gonna blame
Mm-hmm.
somebody else for their
Mm-hmm.
behavior, or if they made a mistake. It's never their fault.
Wow,
They're
I
gonna
didn't
blame
even.
they're gonna blame the other person.
Yes, that's interesting. We're talking about narcissism because I did notice that as a theme, like narcissists don't take accountability. It was your fault. Like it was your fault that
Yes,
you made me yell at you. It was your fault for like you may tell them to do something, but it was your fault. You made me forget. Like what?
yes.
Why
And,
can't
and,
you?
and they start making you believe like you're crazy. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, or they make you feel guilty, or
Mm-hmm,
you know they tend to lie so much.
mm-hmm,
They lied about the smallest things, and then a narcissistic, they're gonna make you believe that what you're doing is wrong, but it's not wrong.
mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
wrong, because
Right.
they're not gonna tell you it's wrong. They're gonna make you feel like it's your fault always. It's never their fault.
What? Yeah. Yes. See, red flag. Narcissism. Something to look out for, ladies and gentlemen that may be watching this. So, you mentioned something in your book and also in your story, about your relationship with God and coming to Jesus Christ. So, How did you come to know Christ for yourself, and how did that help you leave, the toxic relationship?
I grew up in church.
Mm-hmm.
My family is Pentecostal. I'm not currently in church, but God is always going to be my savior. I try to visit church. God is my everything. When I tend to be sad or happy, I talk to God. When I
Mm-hmm.
wake up in the morning and I go to bed, I talk to God. I always tell people, if it wasn't for the grace of God, I would have been here. There were many times in my abusive relationship I could have lost my life. And if it wasn't for prayers, I would have been here. I try to talk to my children a lot about Jesus. Jesus is the center in my household. And, I respect everybody's belief, and you tend to your God, but my God is my king. If it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for him, I would have been here telling you my story.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I love that. And I when you talked about going to church, I feel like people don't realize that you don't necessarily have to go into a church building and still have a relationship with God, because I feel like going to church is almost like going to a family. So every building that's a church may not be for you. You know what I mean? You have to actually be comfortable there,
You're
like
right.
what the preacher's saying. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like an easy decision when it comes to
Right.
finding the church, you know?
I mean,
So
every church has a way of doing things, right? Depends religion, or depends, every church, do differently. My mother goes to a stricter church, where, they don't wear pants, or they don't, certain, certain things they don't do. And that's how I grew up. But, a lot of us, my focus right now, is having a relationship with God first and a man later, right?
mhm, mhm.
You have to have a relation, and I want to have a relationship with God. And then when God decided, to find that okay man for my life, then, but my first relationship is God, my children, and then so on.
And there we go. And
Mhm.
even scripture says, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And I
All
feel like
into
all
place.
these things are the husband and this, everything else. But it's like God just wants you to seek him so you can know Mr. Right from Mr. Wrong too. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that was part of my problem. Like, I'll be all good praying, like on my Bible game, but as soon as someone came in, it's kind of like I let my relationship with God like kind of take a backseat. But never again. I know that the right person for me will kind of help me to increase, maybe, you know
Yes,
what I mean, my relationship with
absolutely.
God. That
When you meet somebody that takes that focus of what's important for you, it's not the right person, because
mm-hmm,
that person will join you to what's
mm-hmm,
important to you.
yes, yeah.
But
I want to.
when that focus is off the things that's important to you, because he thinks he's more important, that's definitely a no-go.
Yes, yeah. I know that now. I get fearful, you know what I mean? Because God wouldn't send someone in your life to distract you from Him.
There
Like
you
you
go.
said, God is first. It's the reason
Mhm.
why we're even alive today.
Right.
And it's like we're looking. I realize sometimes we're looking for like a person to fill a God-sized hole in our heart. That thing that we're searching for, that we want to be fulfilled, only God can. No one
Yes.
else. Like even the best it's not going to fill that void or that hole. And I think people get that mixed up. You know what I mean? Everybody's trying to look for love, but like God is love. So you got to find him. And then,
That's so true. That's why, seek God and everything will fall into place.
yep,
Put him
he
first.
gonna make sure his kids is taken care of. Like sometimes I think we feel like, oh, we're gonna miss out if like we're focused on. No, you're not. God gonna make sure everything will be on your path as you seek Him. That's just how I believe.
That's very true. When I talk to God, I said, God, give me patience and wait on
Mhm,
your time, because sometimes we get desperate for things to fall into place in our time, but it's his, right? The
mhm,
same with relationships. You feel lonely, or jobs, or financial, or you're struggling emotionally. I seek him. You can seek both, if you want to seek professionally, or if you want to seek him, or you can pray. So I talk to him, and my prayers are answered on his time, not mine. So
there we go. And then I really want to encourage somebody that's watching this, just like how we're talking about God. That's really how you have to do it. You don't have to come to God with your fancy prayer or think that you need to know a lot of big words and a bunch of scripts. Like literally just talk from your heart. Like God knows you. So I just want whoever's listening to know that. Like you can talk to him like Mari said, when you're happy, when you're sad, anytime. You don't have to like wait until like you're on your knees either. Like you can just
mm,
talk to him in your heart and like he's listening. But God first,
absolutely.
y'all. So how would you? define your identity in Christ now. Now that you know him, like what has Christ showed you about yourself?
Oh man, there's so much more to me. He showed me that you are special. You are worthy. You are a daughter of a king. You know what I mean? God made me for a reason. You have a purpose. So, when I wrote my book, he knew when I always wanted to write my story, but he just knew the time on when to. It was like the perfect time. And, I prayed on it and I used to tell people, I want to write my story, but God just knew when.
Mm-hmm.
He just knew, he knew that time before I wasn't mentally ready, emotionally ready. There's so many things in my life that he has fixed. There's so many things in my life that I wanted that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't pray to him everything that I want. Also, when I do have it, I pray with him. Because sometimes we pray, God, please give me a house, give me a car. Okay, but when you do have it, do you still pray for him? Do you
Yeah.
pray with him?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, he taught me to validate myself. He loved me to love myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the only one's gonna love you unconditional, right?
There we go.
So he
Yes.
just showed me that love. So, I love me. I love who I am because that's what God created me to
Mm-hmm.
love me for how he made me.
I love that. And it's like that's what God probably not probably. I'm sure God wanted that all along for all of us to like love ourselves how he loves us, you know? And that's like my thing. I always feel like everything will happen once you start seeing yourself as God sees you. You know, when you
Yes.
see yourself as like fearfully and wonderfully made, you're not gonna let anybody talk to you or treat you any kind of way. Wait a minute. My God died on the
Right.
cross for me. Like you're not gonna if he thought I was worth dying for, then that means I'm special. So if you're not gonna
There
treat me
you
that
go.
way, then like there's a disconnect. Don't mess with his child. Okay, like don't let's not do that. So you're right. Like knowing God does help you to love yourself totally, completely, and fully.
Yes.
So I'm glad you mentioned your book. Do you have your book right now so you can show the audience and also talk to us about the book?
I do. I actually I don't have it because it's in my living room where my book is. I just lay my desk. But
It's
my
okay.
book is my personal experience with domestic violence. I explain in my book, how I survived domestic violence, how I grew, my healing journey, how I fixed my relationship with my children, how I fixed our relationship with myself. In order for me to help my children, I had to help myself first because I was empty, right? You can't help somebody if you're empty.
Mm-hmm.
So, I explained how, I overcame, certain triggers or how I manage triggers. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I don't know why I was blinking, but I'm gonna try to like
Resource.
pull up your screen again.
I added
Okay.
certain resources behind the book.
Hmm. So here's the book, ladies and gentlemen. So I want y'all to see what it looks like when you're going Amazon. So go
Mhm.
ahead, finish telling us more
And
about
you
it.
get that price, like if you have an Amazon. So is a story of survival and healing, right? Trauma, survival, and healing. I talk about my childhood trauma, my relationship with my mom, how my relationship with God, and at the end of the book, you get resources. You get free resources, just like if you go to my website, you get free resources. I added a few Bible scriptures there too. Like there's three of them that are my favorite, and I think it's Psalm 121.
Hmm.
What else? Yeah, it was part of my healing.
Hmm.
I did a lot of crying. I did, it put me through a negative place, but also turned into a positive place because I had to go back and kind of redo the story. It's like reliving the story all over again. Because I had to
Hmm.
sit there and talk about, my daughter's sexual abuse from my second abuser, right? And how that put me through my alcoholic. At that time of my life where she was going through her emotions for being sexually abused, that broke me completely.
Hmm.
That brought me to, you know, all the way, I hit rock bottom mentally. So I
Wow.
definitely talk about that in my book.
Wow. It sounds like an amazing read. I was starting to read it on Amazon. I was like, oh, Mary really is going there. Like she's, oh my gosh, she's not holding back. She's really telling it how it
Yeah.
is. And I just really appreciate your authenticity. It's just like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. People relate to real. You know,
Yeah,
I find
I
I
added
feel
everything there. I added my I struggle financially for many, everything's in there. I'm an open book, and sometimes, this is who I am. And I tell women all the time, if God gave you a chance to walk out of that abusive relationship, grow from it. Start using
Mm-hmm.
your voice, go to school, or do certain things that you couldn't do before. Because sometimes when you're trapped in an abusive cycle, you're not allowed to do anything. You're not
Mm-hmm.
allowed to do makeup. You're not allowed to wear earrings. You're not, there were women things I couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to drive. I wasn't able to learn how to drive. They wouldn't let me do anything. It was like I was their sidekick.
Mm-hmm.
I was their psychic. They wanted to, it was like this shadow in me. And then, after I finally decided to break that, I started doing things that I always wanted to do.
Oh, I love it. And it's just almost like, yeah, the person tried to break you down, but God can like comes in to build you back up, to the
He lifted
person.
me up. He he
Yeah.
he did. He
What the
showed me.
devil meant for evil, God turned for good. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you're like a living testimony. So, just wrapping this up, if people find themselves in a domestic violence situation, how can they get out? And what are some steps to take in order to get out of the situation?
Be safe. Create a safe plan.
Mm,
Don't just tell him I'm leaving, because now you're causing anger. He's upset that you're leaving. So that can, you can, potentially get hurt, right? Create a safe plan. Make sure that you don't really tell everybody that you're leaving unless you really trust this person. Shut down your social media, turn off your location. Make sure you block him, and please seek help, whether, walk into the emergency room or go
mm,
to a police station. Forget about your property.
mm,
Take your most important things, your insurance card, credit card, your cell phone is fully charged, social security, your contacts, just in case if your phone dies, you got your contacts in a piece of paper. Um, just the most important thing, those are it. And make sure, like I said, take a picture of your social media, going to a shelter, and be careful who you tell that you're leaving to, because that person might be best friend with your abuser, right? They
mm,
might be cool, but please don't tell her that you're leaving. Just make sure you create a safe plan. Set a time, set a date. Don't tell the children, because the
mm,
children might tell daddy, because he might
mm,
see daddy a different way than you do.
mm,
And go to the emergency room or
mm,
go to the police station. But be careful who you tell, and please never tell him that you're leaving.
mm.
Never. But create a safe plan, and take the most important, documents that you're gonna need when you are in a safe house.
Wow. Oh, I love that. That was a perfect way
Thank
to
you.
end the our conversation. I love this whole interview. I love everything that you shared, the advice that you gave on how women can get their power back, the things to look out for, and the resources and how they actually can get out. So I don't want anybody watching this be like, okay, what should I do? But you brought it, you gave it. Like I'm just so appreciative and
Thank you so
grateful.
much.
So, Mark, is there anything else you want to share? Any last tips? How can people find you? Anything that you're working on? Any upcoming events? Anything that you want to share? The spotlight is yours. The ground is yours to tell us what's going on with you next.
So I was part of a PTSD summit, and we wrote a book about PTSD. So I team up with a few authors, and we share, personal experience with PTSD, how we manage, how we deal with our triggers. That's going to be coming out October 15th. I
Ooh.
have a 6-week program to overcome fear after abuse and trauma. It's a life coaching program. You can go to my website,
Mhm.
and you could, we can call, talk for 30 minutes to see if it works for you. What else am I coming with? Oh, for October, for domestic violence awareness, I will be sharing I'm walking on a domestic violence walk here in Boston. I will be sharing that on Facebook. So if you want to follow me there, and you can follow me on Instagram. So hopefully, are you going to put my information down, or?
Mhm. You can
Yep.
tell me. I was about to find your website so I can put it in a little thing. What's your
Yeah.
website again?
So it's linktr.e/Mari Ramos.
Okay. So actually, okay. Huh.
And they can listen to my podcast. We talk about a lot about, trauma, overcoming, trauma, abuse, self-care, um, fear. We talk about fear. Sometimes I invite guests, but most of the time I speak and I share my own personal, stories. And it's amazing to be able to, share my own and help others.
I think so too. Tell me your website. So it's Linktree. That's what.
Yeah, it's Linktree. So it's linktr.ee
Uh-huh.
slash Mari underscore Ramos.
Oh, I was missing the underscore. Okay. But I'm like, why didn't it come up? All right. Let's see. Author's website. All right.
So in the author's website, if you want resources, if you want mental health, legal fees, or if you're looking for a shelter or any kind of domestic abuse help, it's at the end of the website.
Okay, I'm gonna share the screen one more time so people can see. Make sure they're on the right website. So
Yep.
here it is on the look at you. You look so good.
There
Oh, so everything you guys want right here. Uh and can't they also get your 6-week course on your website as well?
Yeah, there's a button on my, not this website, but if you go to linktr.ee,
Mm-hmm.
let me see, is that, yeah, so you go down and it says 30-minute coaching consultation. You can schedule it there, and then we can talk to make sure it's a great fit. But if you're ready to move forward and break through fear and start a new life, let's talk.
Oh my gosh,
I
I
can give
love
you, I
it.
can help you. I invested in myself, and I can help you move forward.
Perfect. Yes, she can, ladies and gentlemen. Like, do not, let me put this one up here. Delay. She gave us great resources, great tips. This is definitely someone that you want to work with. And I feel like even though your stories about domestic violence, a lot of women can come to you if they're like going through a breakup or a disappointment or need like a way to reshift their life. Like you will be a great person to talk to as well and to get wisdom from. So thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank you for joining me. This was a
Thank
wonderful
you.
conversation. And I
Blessings.
hope to have you back. Like when your next book comes out, the book that you did with the group, like, we can come and talk about it too again. So
Absolutely. Thank you so
whenever you
much.
want to come back, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
So again, thank you again, Mari, for joining me. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe, comment, and check out Mari as well. And you guys have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful day and night.
Blessings.